Welcome to my YouTube channel. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Understanding the development controls. Under Rules 7 and 8 of the Revised Implementing Rules and Regulations of PD number 1096, National Building Code of the Philippines.
Welcome to another edition of our discussion for the development controls under the revised implementing rules and regulations of the National Building Code of the Philippines. And for this episode, we're going to have as an example a building on a residential basic R2 zone. So this will be our example, a proposed house for a young couple located in a basic R2 zone area with a total lot area of 384 square meters. It is a corner lot having a 19.20 meter wide frontage facing north, and there is a 12 meter wide road at the west and north side of the property. So if we are going to compare the lot area here of 384 square meters, it is bigger than the suggested minimum lot size of 96 square meters basic R2 corner lot under table 8.G.7. So let us draw the lot. So this will be 19.20 meters by 20 meters, having a road at the north and west side of the property. So we are going to determine now what will be the development potential of this lot. Up to how much extent can we develop this property? So the first thing that we are going to ask is what will be the options for development. The first option that we have is to have a building without firewall. So we are going to ask what are the development controls for the project if the building will have no firewall, and that will be a single detached house. On the other hand, another option is to have a building with firewall, and so we are going to compute for the development controls for the project if the building will have a firewall, and that means it will be a single attached house. So let us first determine the development controls for a building without firewall. So that will be a single detached house on a basic R2 zone. So we are to compute for the allowable maximum building footprint, or AMBF, for the project, as well as we can compute for the allowable maximum percentage of site occupancy, or maximum PSO, for the project for a building without firewall. So our first reference will be the table 8.2. This is the minimum setbacks for residential buildings, and for a basic R2, the front setback minimum is 3 meters, while the side and rear setback will be at 2 meters. So if you have here this lot and we apply those minimum setbacks, if we have a 19.2 meters dimension here and we deduct the 3 meters and 2 meters here, we will get the dimension for this, and that will give you a maximum dimension of the building at 14.2, and then the other maximum building dimension, if we deduct 20 meters with the minimum setback of 3 meters and 2 meters, will give you 15 meters maximum dimension. So if we are going to compute for the area of this blue portion, which is the maximum building footprint, you only have to multiply the two maximum dimensions of 14.2 by 15 meters, will now give you the AMBF based on the minimum setbacks at 213 square meters. So just divide it by our total lot area here of 384 square meters, will give you the maximum PSO at 55.47%. And we are to compare this value of the AMBF and the maximum PSO with the other values provided in other tables of the Rule 7 and 8. So here we have table 8.1, a reference table for the maximum PSO. And here it indicates that for a basic R2 without firewall, the maximum PSO is at 55% of the total lot area. So which means our AMBF here will be at 211.2 or 55% of 384 square meters. Now, in determining the allowable maximum building footprint or AMBF for buildings and related habitable structures, the rule is the more stringent but applicable regulation should be observed. So we are to compare those two values that we gathered, and it shows here that the most stringent value is based on table 8.1, having an AMBF of 211.2 or a maximum PSO of 55% of the total lot area. So now we prepare our tabulation. Our final answer for the AMBF will be at 211.2 square meters, and our maximum PSO is 55% of the TLA. So now we move on to the other part of the lot not occupied by the maximum building footprint. So we have now the allowable minimum total open space within lot, as well as the allowable minimum unpaved surface area or minimum USA. And we also have the allowable maximum impervious surface area or maximum ISA, and we can also determine the maximum allowable construction area or MACA for the project if the building shall have no firewall. And this is a single detached house. So the first that we can compute is the resultant allowable minimum total space within lot. And it says here that our minimum total open space within lot will be the portions of the TLA that is not occupied by the maximum allowable PSO. See, it simply means that whatever is left on the site after determining the AMBF and the maximum PSO most stringent, the remaining part of the lot will be your minimum TOSL. So you only have to deduct whatever AMBF or maximum PSO we have computed earlier as the most stringent. So therefore, our resultant minimum TOSL will be at 172.8 square meters or 45% of the TLA. So which means this is 45, this is 55% for a total of 100%. Now, if you go to table 8.1, our value of the maximum PSO most stringent is based on this table, which is at 55%. And in this table also, you will see that the TOSL here is at 45%, or the minimum TOSL actually. However, we have another reference for the minimum TOSL, and this is table 8.G.6. And in this particular table, for a corner lot without firewall, our minimum TOSL is at 30% for R1 and all other residential use or occupancy, including basic R2. So which means here that the minimum TOSL is at 30% of 384 square meters. Our TLA will give you a value of 115.2 square meters. Okay, and this value will show that this is smaller than the one derived using the resultant minimum TOSL. So when we now finalize our minimum TOSL, we make use of that value from table 8.G.6, 30% and 115.2 square meters. So we have now to compute the minimum unpaved surface area allowable, and our reference here simply is table 8.1. So whatever is there, you only have to multiply the percentage there given with our TLA of 384 square meters will give you the value of the minimum USA at 57.6 square meters. So now we finalize the value of the minimum USA at 57.6 square meters, 15%. So the next that we are going to compute is the allowable maximum impervious surface area or maximum ISA. Again, our reference here is table 8.1. So here it is indicated without firewall at 30% of the TLA or 30% of 384 will give you a value at 115.2 square meters. So we put this value now in our tabulation for the maximum ISA at 115.2 square meters, 30%. So the last value that we're going to determine is the maximum allowable construction area or MACA. And here our reference also is table 8.1. So we only have to add here the values provided for the maximum PSO 55% plus the maximum ISA value here at 30% will give you the MACA at 85% of the TLA will give you 326.4 square meters. So again, we provide this value in our tabulation to complete now the development controls for a single detached house in this particular basic R2 property. So we now go to the other development controls on the floor areas of the building without firewall. So we are going to determine the allowable maximum GFA as well as the allowable maximum TGFA for the project, single detached. So for the allowable maximum gross floor area, our formula basically is very simple. You only have to multiply your total lot area with the maximum recommended floor to lot area ratio. And here we have table 7.g.1 showing that for a basic R2, the maximum value here is at 1.5 FLAR, maximum designated. So we multiply the 1.5 with our TLA of 384 square meters will give you now a value for the max GFA allowable at 576 square meters. So now we put this so now we go into the computation for the allowable maximum total gross floor area based on table 7.1. So here table 8.1 shows without firewall corner lot basic R2 is 3 by 70%, and that will give you a value of the max TGFA at 806.4 square meters. Another way to compute the allowable maximum TGFA is basing it on your value of the max GFA. So earlier, we have computed the maximum GFA at 576 square meters, and we are going to multiply that with this multiplier in table 7.g.2. 1.25 is our multiplier or conversion factor. Will now give you a value of 720 square meters for your maximum TGFA. So if we summarize the values for the floor areas, our maximum GFA based on table 7.g.1 will give you 576 square meters. And for the maximum TGFA based on table 7.1 will give you 806.4 square meters. And your maximum TGFA based on table 7.g.2 or the conversion table will give you a value of 720 square meters. So here it shows that the more stringent one is based on the conversion table. So let us now go into the second option if we are going to have a building with firewall. So it means now that we are going to have a single attached house. So here we first compute for the allowable maximum building footprint and the allowable maximum PSO for the project if the building will have a firewall or a single attached house. So we are to check the firewall length, and the maximum firewall length accordingly is not exceeding more than 80% of the total length of a side property line. That is for a medium density R2, including basic R2 or maximum R2 zone, provided that only one side property line is used for a firewall. So in this case, firewall can be located here at the 20 meters or at the 19.2, but this one will give you a longer possible length for the firewall and definitely a bigger building footprint. Now, but since this building footprint area, the maximum is not based on the minimum setbacks, so we cannot determine the exact dimension here because our AMBF most stringent without firewall is based on table 8.1. So in that case, even though our maximum firewall length here is at 80% of 20 meters at 16 meters, we will have to disregard this and we follow what is provided in table 8.1. Table 8.1 shows that our maximum PSO is 55% without firewall, and so it also means that our maximum PSO with firewall will also be taken from the same table, 60% of the total lot area. So therefore, our maximum PSO, 60% will give you an AMBF of 230.4 square meters. So we now tabulate this. Our final answer for the maximum PSO 60% and AMBF is 230.4 square meters. So the next that we're going to determine is the allowable minimum total open space within that, our allowable minimum unpaved surface area, allowable maximum impervious surface area, as well as the maximum allowable construction area for a building with firewall or a single attached house. Again, we compute first the resultant, meaning the open space, the minimum total open space will be the remaining part of the lot if we deduct the maximum PSO. So this is our maximum PSO with firewall, 60%, meaning the remaining part of the lot will be here minimum TOSL. So we just deduct those values. Will give you now a minimum TOSL of 153.6 square meters or 40% of the total lot area. But then again, if we are going to and this value of the minimum TOSL corresponds to the value of the minimum TOSL here in table 8.1 because this is our most stringent maximum PSO 60%. However, there is another reference for the minimum TOSL, and this is our reference table actually for the minimum TOSL, table 8.G.6. And looking at this table with firewall for a corner lot here shows that for R2, whether basic or maximum R2, the minimum TOSL is at 20%. So 25, sorry. So here in this table for a corner lot with firewall, it shows for R2, whether basic R2 or maximum R2 is at 25% of the TLA. So therefore, our minimum TOSL is 96 square meters or 25% of 384. So we now include that in our tabulation. 25% and equivalent area of 96 square meters for the minimum TOSL. So we go to the minimum unpaved. Again, our reference here is basically table 8.1. So whatever is provided here, 10% is the minimum USA with firewall. Just multiply it with the TLA, giving you a value of 38.4 square meters. So again, put that in the tabulation to finalize your value of the minimum USA. 384 square meters, 10% of the TLA. And then we go to the allowable maximum impervious surface area or maximum ISA. Again, table 8.1 is our reference. So here it shows 30% is our maximum ISA. Will give you 115.2 square meters. Again, just input this in your tabulation for the maximum ISA at 115.2, 30%. So the last one is the MACA. Our reference again is table 8.1. You just add these two values together, the maximum PSO of 60% and the maximum ISA at 30%. So we'll give you a total MACA of 345.6 square meters. So again, input that in the tables to finalize all values of the development controls with firewall taken at grade level. So we go to the other development controls pertaining to the floor areas of the building, the allowable maximum GFA and the allowable maximum total gross floor area for a building with firewall, single attached house. Now for the allowable maximum gross floor area, actually this does not matter whether you have firewall or no firewall, your value will be the same. It will just be your TLA times the maximum recommended floor to lot area ratio. So therefore, our value here is the same as the one without firewall, 576 square meters also. So we now compute for the allowable maximum total gross floor area based on table 7.1. We now go to that page showing with firewalls here for a corner lot. Basic R2 shows 3 by 75% of the TLA. So therefore, our value is 864 square meters. So we can also compute for the allowable maximum TGFA using our maximum GFA value and converting it to its equivalent maximum TGFA. And accordingly here, our conversion factor is 1.25. So our maximum GFA is 576 multiplied by this conversion factor from table 8.G.2 shows our maximum TGFA at 720 square meters. Basically the same as our value of the maximum TGFA without firewall, because our value of the maximum GFA is also the same, 576 square meters. Okay, so to finalize our values for the floor areas maximum for a building with firewall, our maximum GFA is at 576 square meters, and our maximum TGFA based on table 7.1 at 864, and our maximum TGFA based on table 7.G.2 will be at 720 square meters. So again here it shows that the more stringent one is based on table 7.G.2, the conversion table. So we are now going to summarize our values for the building without firewall. This will be our maximum and minimum values, and compare it with option number 2, a building with firewall, that shows here your minimum and maximum values allowable. You will see here that for the maximum GFA, whether with firewall or no firewall, that will give you the same value, and the maximum TGFA based on the max GFA therefore will also have the same value without firewall and with firewall. So this will now serve as your guide so that when you prepare your plans, if you opt to have no firewall, then your layout and floor areas not exceeding the maximum values here or not below the minimum values here for the building without firewall. And the same goes for if you are going to build a structure with firewall on this particular lot, then this will be your guiding values when preparing your plans. So that's it. Thank you very much for listening, and you can watch out for my succeeding videos for more discussion on Rule 7 and 8.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. For a more comprehensive study on Rules 7 and 8 of the revised IR of the NBCP, please enroll at Atlas CDC Review. Email us at atlascdcreview@gmail.com, or you may join us at our FB group page, www.facebook.com/groups/ALA Review.